Karen Meeks performs a song from the repertoire of Ma Rainey during the performance of the Divas with Blue River Soul back in April at the Albright Center for the Arts in Sunbury. Rainey was one of 4 women Meeks portrayed during the night in the show the group hopes to take to Broadway. The performance in a dinner theater setting was a great way for them to test everything out. Meeks singing, the music, and the lighting. It also was a great way for the center to do a full production for the first time.
We were able to host them in this venue where put the show together with lights, with the sound, all of the things that go along with producing a show, and see how it worked. And for them, it was a milestone in the level of production of their show, and for us, it was a milestone in showing what the Albright Center and Community Center can be. Like, this is a glimpse of the vision that those folks had back in 2014. So 10 years later, we're finally able to kind of get a glimpse of this coming to fruition.
And they showed off the great building in a big way. With a red carpet outside and a photographer to take pictures in front of a backdrop promoting both the center and its parent organization, Sunbury's Revitalization, Inc. There were tables to enjoy the catered meals, along with wines from a local company. Some of the people in attendance were involved in the initial push to turn this building from a church into an arts center way back in 2014 when it was handed to SRI. A lot has happened over the past 10 years to get the building to this point, along with some sweat, blood, and hand-wringing. The one constant through it all has been Slade Shreck, a member of Sunbury City Council and the then SRI Council that was organized to oversee the development of the building. Shreck acted as a liaison between the city and the building group.
They approached one of our board members, John Shipman, and because their congregation has shrank to the point where they merged with another church, they approached John Shipman about SRI taking this over and donated it to SRI. And of course the SRI board says, absolutely, we'd love to have it. Not realizing at the time what was involved with that, saying yes.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been a mission. It's getting accomplished. It's just slow, but it's happening. I mean, since then we have put an elevator in. We just did all this HVAC system in here, the new kitchen. So it's getting there. It's just a long process. We've probably spent over $2 million so far in this building.
This grand building with its distinctive green cap was built back in 1927 and eventually became the Albright United Methodist Church, a big church that catered to a population in the city that at the time numbered between 16 and 17,000. It was the result of the merger of several congregations and was named after Reverend Albright, who would ride between his churches taking care of their needs on the frontier in the 1700s. But at the time they decided to donate the building to SRI, the congregation had dwindled to almost nothing. They handed it over with only one stipulation, that the name Albright would remain with the building, thus the Albright Center for the Arts. Another congregation did use the building for a time, but soon became too big for it. They've also had some churches with smaller congregations put together choirs that have performed here.
We also have a storytelling series, and this is more, we had Billy Kelly do his True Irish Ghost Stories here. That was a smaller event. He was down on the floor. It was about 80 people, not so complicated, but it's a really wonderful event to bring the community together. We've had an Irish hoolie, where again, it was the beginning of first Saturday of March, and we plan to do it every year. And it's leaning into, well, it's St. Patrick's Day, the month of St. Patrick's Day, but we want to learn more about the Irish culture. We have a number of people in our community of that heritage, and we want to accentuate the music and the dance and the storytelling.
And for the love of coffee?
We did. We had a For the Love of Coffee event, so we partnered with Fresh Roasted Coffee, a growing company in Sunbury, and they brought all the coffee, and we had some nice coffee house vibes going on, some live entertainment, and a brunch, and that was a nice community event as well.
And that was in February.
And that was in February. So every month, pretty much, throughout the rest of the year, we'll have something going on here.
Ocker says she was looking to put together their first year of programming for the arts, which is often necessary to be eligible for future grants. Many of the Endowment for the Arts grants require you to show at least a year of history of putting on programming, so this begins their history. It also brings several big issues to the forefront for the center. The first has to do with the constant struggle places like the Albright Center face, finding funding. They've had some successes on this front. As you heard Slade say, they put about $2 million into the building already for the very important elevator to make it handicap accessible. In this area, they have a new HVAC system and renovated the kitchen, which at this time was being used by a caterer. That really put the downstairs banquet hall level into a complete package where they can have the event like they had, the show, along with weddings and receptions with the kitchen. And Slade also likes to draw attention to their recently refurbished bathrooms. Grants made all of that possible, including the architectural plans for the renovation. They've also been able to get private donations through capital campaigns, although they found that revenue source to be less than fruitful in the past because there are a lot of organizations with a lot of capital campaigns, and it becomes difficult when you're the new kid on the block. So they've been able to get this area done and funded their phase 1 of sorts. The other phases sit above us and would normally be the next ones to tackle if not for the big roadblock that the building faces.
Yeah. Would this be considered like the first phase?
Yeah, well, this is the second phase. The rest of the building, this was a fun story. So with the heating and air conditioning completed in the summer, we contacted our heating specialists, and because the whole building is heated on a steam radiator system, which has had its issues and leaking, and we have water leak damage and things over time.
Pretty much the same furnace that's been in here since it was built, I think.
Probably, yeah. So we said, okay, well, now we can turn off certain sections now that we have the new down here. And when they came and looked at the furnace, they unfortunately had to condemn it. The boiler was damaged and was leaking and unsafe. So this is the only part of the building that has full climate control, and the rest we make do, and hopefully that's our highest priority. Next is the heating and air conditioning system and upgraded electricity to the rest of the building, which is big. But that's probably a $1.5 or $1.8 million project.
Until that time, they look for weather that's conducive to hold events up here in this very large auditorium. You can just tell that Jody and Slade can't wait to get to this area because they can see the potential here. And it's not just the auditorium, it's the space behind it. 2 levels of individual rooms that could be used as studio space for art, music, and other endeavors. SRI already has a presence up here. There came a time when the organization was at a crossroads. Do they continue occupying a storefront on Market Street in Sunbury, or do they make the move here to space they don't have to pay for? And the answer was obviously very clear to them. But it's when you start talking with them about the possibilities for this area that their eyes start to light up.
We want to start like a music listening series. One of our board members, Ed Krebs, is a musician himself, and he has those connections, so he's going to organize some listening experiences where a band or performer might get to just do a concert versus being in a bar setting where people are not really paying attention, but they can, people to really listen and appreciate their music, singer-songwriters and things like that.
Yeah,
so.
we before we found out the furnace was condemned, I had in my head that I was going to do a Christmas show, and I was going to use all the local schools' chorus or choirs to come in and do the show. You know, and make it a show so, you know, you can incorporate Chickalemi, Selinsgrove, Schmoke, and Line Mountain, Danville, incorporate all these to bring their choirs in to a Christmas show, And then I had it pictured in my head that at the end they all would come on the stage and sing Silent Night or something like that. Of course, then the furnace was shot and couldn't do it.
It's too cold.
And it's either too cold in there or too hot. So there's short little windows we have each part of the year until we get it fixed.
The tally to get the rest of this building to where they want it to be is about $6 million. So they've decided to shoot for the moon and see what they get, and then they'll go from there. In the meantime, they look for opportunities to play a role in the community and help out by offering up their space. They recently allowed a nonprofit to use their building for a food distribution. The Chamber of Commerce and other businesses have used their downstairs banquet hall for functions, so the word is getting out about this place and what it currently has to offer. All of this fits in with the mission of Sunbury's Revitalization, Inc., collaborating with other agencies and organizations, connecting businesses and residents to resources, and then also cultivating a very positive image of Sunbury. Everything that is beginning to happen here, and could happen here in the future, including the performances, will hopefully bring visitors and economic energy into Sunbury and to the businesses downtown and throughout the city and the region.
Run it back!